Yes, guys, how you doing? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. I am Sean Butler. I hope you're all happy and healthy, doing the things that you love with those that you love to do them with. Happy New Year, guys. Happy New Year to you. I hope you're all fresh as a daisy and that you're enjoying the start. It's a horrible, horrible day here in southwest London, southeast of England. And it's not a day for an outdoorsy video. So we're back at the desk and we've got some wonderfully exciting transfer news, views and clues for you. So many. This is the way we kick off the silly season. It's going to take a while, so I better get straight into it, shall we, guys? We've got some absolutely tip-top names to go through here, and it's exciting, I've got to be honest. So stay tuned, smash a like button if you enjoy this stuff. Hit the subscribe if you haven't already. We're trying to get back to where we were. We were climbing back, then we got smacked, then we climbed back, got smacked, then we climbed back, and we got smacked, and then double smacked. And now we're back again, trying to get back up to where we were before all of the kind of breathers and the breaks that were happening. It's not been easy, but listen, it doesn't matter about that. Let's get straight into it. Hit the subscribe, hit the notification bell, hit the drop a comment, and let me know your thoughts on all of today's transfer news, views and clues. Let's get straight into it, guys. Dani Olmo, straight off the bat, one of my favourite players in world football. I absolutely adore this guy. Spanish international, smashes it wherever he goes. Leipzig fame, left Leipzig. Barcelona took him for £50 million. I think they paid him €50 million last year in the summer. It was a rumoured player that Tottenham might be interested in him, but probably couldn't get the guy to sort of give up on the idea of playing for Barcelona. He's a Spanish guy. Obviously, it makes a little sense. And he's played 15 games for them, scoring 6 goals, right? So the transition from German football to Spanish football, not an issue. Absolute brilliant player. Plays off the left, plays off the right, plays through the middle. Predominantly a 10, but a floater, and is just entirely capable of doing whatever's asked of him in that kind of creative role. He's a delicate, fleet of foot sort of player that can just turn on a sixpence, create some absolute magic, do everything that you hope in James Maddison, but he can get himself up for the big games and for the little games. Top end of the pitch, bottom end of the table, top end of the table, doesn't matter. He's up for them all. And I'm a massive, massive fan of this guy's personality, and his technical craft is up there with the very best in world football. And look, Barcelona screwed up because they forgot when they were signing him that they also signed about 800 other players, and they didn't sell enough. And there's no room in their squad. And for some reason, Barcelona thought they could just kind of get away with it like they always do. And you know what happened? This time around, they didn't. Twice now they have had their appeal rejected at the inability to name him as part of their squad. And they were given kind of the free license to allow him to play until the end of 2024, which of course passed yesterday. And so Dani Olmo is now technically able to leave, as far as I understand it, able to leave Barcelona as a free agent if he wants to, because there is no ability to add him to the squad lists. And so it's a complete mess. Barcelona still hope to have some sort of third appeal that will be successful. It might be, you never know with them. But in any event, according to all reports this morning, 8 teams in the Premier League alone are sniffing around. And then you've also got the likes of Paris Saint-Germain and Bayern Munich. Leipzig might also take him back if he wants to leave Barcelona, of course. The English names are United, City, Arsenal, Chelsea, Tottenham and Liverpool and Newcastle. So not exactly short of options if he was to go. His agent has come out and said that he wants to stay in Barcelona, that they want to figure it out, and he's got no intentions, and that's his decision's been made, so kind of forget about it. But these things are sometimes political conversations where you don't want to come out and say anything too drastic, too dramatic. He obviously does have a loyalty towards, I'd imagine, playing for Barcelona, but at the same time, he's got a career to think about, and he's not getting any younger. And look, there's international places up at stake here, and you've got to think that if they don't find the solution, then maybe, just maybe, there'll be some sort of chance here to move him on. Bearing in mind how much money Barcelona have already kind of paid him, and they already still owe, from what I've read, they still owe money on to Lionel Messi from up until 2025. Late 2025, they still have to pay him money. Barcelona's finances are an absolute disaster class. It's quite incredible how a team of that size, that stature, continues to get themselves in such a kind of quagmire when it comes to finances, especially given their naming rights deal with Spotify and just the general brand, their ability to sell shirts. It's an absolute mess. And yet they've always managed to get away with it because of either support from the Basque government, I think, or other. I'm not entirely convinced of the political contributions. I think that's more of a Real Madrid thing. So forgive me if I'm speaking out of turn on that one if you know more about it than I do. But in a nutshell, it's just not clear how it is that Barcelona always seem to find a wiggle room around it. Maybe there's just a lot of political will to allow that stuff to happen because Barcelona is such a kind of iconic team. But either way, you can't keep kicking the can down the road and expect it to not catch up with you at some point. Even though that makes no sense as a metaphor, you know, understand what I mean. And I think that this one might be a bridge too far. So keep an eye on it. I don't think that, for what it's worth, I love him. The reason I get excited when I hear about Dani Olmo is just the thought of him being able to drift off the left, play off the right, to be able to kind of see him and Maddison playing together. I mean, you could break down those tough locks, the perfect locksmith, wherever you place him on the pitch. And the way that you could just have some of the fluid football, the dynamic kind of fluidity, the rigid fluidity we used to call it, didn't we, last season? Or the fluid rigidity. Well, with Dani Olmo in the team, fluidity and just, sort of bums on the edge of your seat sort of stuff is just, it's par for the course. And he's just a delight to watch. And I'd love to see him play in a Tottenham shirt. I don't think it's going to happen. Even if there was willingness for him to move on, I don't think he's going to leave and come to Tottenham ahead of some of the other names that are listed here. But a boy can dream. Let's move on, guys, to the next one for you. Jack Grealish, a story that I thought was a complete waste of time. Well, it's got some legs in it. Tottenham are willing, I think, according to all reports you've seen this morning, TalkSport are talking about it, Sky Sports have talked about it. There's a lot of the bigger names that, I mean, listen, they're all still just working off the same rumour mill as everybody else, but, and those who say don't know and those who know don't say, let's be honest, right? The way it usually works in life, especially with transfers, is the people that are the noisiest voices in the room probably have the least to say. In reality, when it comes to their proximity to truth, Exhibit A. I'm not making this stuff up, but I work off of this stuff. So it's fine with me. I don't care. I enjoy it. I hope you guys do. But Jack Grealish, the condition in which Tottenham would be on board it is if Man City were going to pay the lion's share, or at least a massive proportion of his wages that are purported to be around 300 grand a week. You could maybe see there being some issues if he was to come in, and then other players that were kind of at the highest end of the salary cap would then get bumped down in terms of proximity to being at the top. And so you can see there being some sort of issues there. For me, I'm just not a fan of Jack Grealish at this stage of the career. 5-6 years ago, we had this conversation on the previous video. Obviously, he was the one that got away to a lot of fans. But for me, I just don't think you want to get a player that's on this decline and that hasn't really shown that much motivation. He's won it all. He's had it all. Too much too soon. Loves a bit of the party lifestyle, according to what we can see, or at least make sense of. Nothing wrong with any of that, but do you really need that when you're trying to build a team here that I think Jack Burford put so eloquently yesterday when he said that this team is not about show ponies, it's about workhorses, and the team, the formation, the strategy, the structure of the outfit requires everybody to be kind of sacrificial in their intentions. And I think don't get me wrong, Jack Grealish on his day is unplayable. He's a fantastic player, can break down that low block and can do wonderful things to kind of get beyond that kind of that line in a different format to how we are currently able to do it. But I just don't think I'm willing to see us go in that direction, considering the amount of money, the absorption of budget. Even though there's definitely wiggle room in our wage structure for it, I'm just not really sure. I think I want to sign up to that. That it's just complex and messy, and the story is not clear. The value isn't entirely obvious to me, and so on that basis, I'm not interested. I'd much rather get involved in some of the other stories that we've got going on, which are, here's one for you guys: MAXENCE Caquaret of Lyon fame, a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful 24-year-old footballer who is going to be the victim of, or the beneficiary of, depending on how you see it or how he feels about it, Lyon's financial mismanagement. Now, Lyon are a team that are essentially playing in a season now where they've already been technically relegated because of their financial mismanagement. And they were essentially relegated in November, but they've got to play out the season, obviously, like everybody else has. And the only way that they're able to kind of to get themselves in a situation where, if their league performance allows them to stay in the league by right, and then the relegation punishment for their financial misdemeanors would be removed, the only way that would happen is if they can get to the end of the season and have demonstrated that there is a much healthier cash flow, a much healthier set of accounts, right? And so one of the only real mechanisms to do that, therefore, is to sell players and to get the wage bill down. And therefore, come of the hour, come of the... Can you smell that? I think Daniel Levy can. Sounds like a negotiation. Sounds like a bargain. Sounds like a zero-sum game. Sounds like a hardball negotiator is going to step up. And that is the rumours. That is the rumours. Excuse me. I've got that still tickle on my chest. Daniel Levy wants to get involved, and maybe look at Maxence Caquaret. Look, he's a midfielder, can play in the 6, can play in the 8, can play in the 10, you know, the everything real, the everything guy, the versatile, Mr. Jack of all trades, Maxence of all trades. For me, I think he's just a delight on the ball. Think of, I don't know, Edgar Davids back in the day, his ability to kind of play in the pocket, be that tempo master, and then at the same time be able to just whip the ball, just switch directions, always looking up, picking the ball up in that quarterback role, that kind of six-esque area of the pitch and the park, and then just look up, find what he's looking for, and then ping it. So pings a lot all the way like Ibiza. And look, I'm a massive fan of his. Now, he's not really thought of as a monster 6. So if you're thinking of him, you've got to think of him as maybe like a Bentancur type of player, right? But is he better than Bentancur? He's a different style of player. Like, he's not really kind of short passes that kind of zip through. He's often looking for and I'm not too familiar with how Leon plays. So from what I've seen on the Y-Scout, the way I've kind of sort of figured it out in my mind at least, and tell me if I'm wrong, if you guys are more familiar, let me know. But I interpret it more as like someone who's looking for that ability to get creative, but from a slightly deeper lying set, and likes to pop the ball over the top, likes to spread the ball into space, and likes to switch the play. And like I said before, right, if there is this notion here where we have to be thinking about, well, not just for this manager, but for the next manager possibly. And I'm not advocating for Ange sacking anyone who gets annoyed with me for saying these things. I'm just talking about reality, that you're signing players here on 3, 4, 5-year deals, and the standard rules of discourse dictate that you have to acknowledge that that's likely going to see not just Ange, but maybe one other, and then possibly even another guy after that, right? God forbid, whether that's Pochettino, whether that's Terzic, whether that's any number of managers, Areola in Bournemouth or Marco Silva. All of those managers that I've just mentioned, they all have a frequency and a fluidity with their style as well, which encourages the flips and the switch of play. And it's a great way to draw players in, to get the kind of everyone moving in one direction, and then someone who's capable being able to, with an accuracy of 90% plus, and also the kind of defensive areas of their game in position as well, to be able to take advantage, flip the ball, and if you have pace on the wing, pace on the outside, one-on-one trickery kind of specialists, then that is the way that you get them the space and able to attack the fullbacks of the other side. And to me, Caquaret is a really good fit for that sort of style. Maybe not quite a perfect fit for what we need. I think you still need, for me, to get just a monster, the 666. Right, I've been saying it forever. To get the devil horns out. You need that beast. And this guy's defensive stats are not in any way poor. I'll be throwing them on the screen in the post edit, but just as a give you a clue here, 2.3 tackles per game, 2.7 ball recoveries, very healthy, right up there with some of the best defensive sided players in the midfield world in the top sort of 5, 6, 7, 8 leagues in Europe. So nothing about his defensive stats, and I think I haven't got them in front of me, but I think you'll see them when I do the post edit. Like, defensively, he's up there. Green bars galore, 90%, 88%, etc. So he's got all of that stuff. He's just not really thought of, as far as I can figure it out, as a typical kind of monster 6. He's more of a ball-playing 6. But I think that the specifics of what you need in that 6 that I think that we haven't got, at least maybe we will have it with Archie Gray when he finally gets round to being played in the position that we want him to play in. But until then, we look at Bissouma, you look at Bentancur, you look at Pape Sarr, you look at Bergvall, you look at any of the guys that are currently kind of sort of chomping at the bit to get in and about there. None of them have what I consider to be that kind of crucial cocktail of defensive empowerment, the ability to sit there and protect and not necessarily get caught up trying to do things that are a little bit too advanced, accepting serenity prayer, shaking hands with the idea that other people can do that stuff. You sit there and monster marshal it. At the same time, be that tempo master, right? You create the space, you create the time, you dictate what is going to happen and how fast we're doing it, and you deliver that with passing accuracies, short, medium, and long in the 91st, 92nd, or higher percentile. And there are loads of them out there. So you don't need to have to be everything and great at everything. You just need to be very, very good at a very few number of incredibly vital disciplines, so that you stop giving the ball over, you stop transitioning the ball like Pape Sarr is so guilty of doing. And I love Sarr, but he frustrates me with he's so he's like Bugsy Malone with a ball, right? He's just so desperate to run around and move and get everything going so quickly that sometimes that therefore inevitably leads to unnecessary turnovers. People with like Pedro Porro and Destiny Udogie, they sprinting up 100 meters, sprinting back 100 meters. You're exhausted. And when you're exhausted and you're in anaerobic exercise mode, not that I'm an exercise beast, but I can imagine that your ability to kind of control your fast muscle twitch fibers or whatever it be, that stuff is more difficult to do, and therefore you're going to overhit, underhit, and give the ball away. So sometimes you just need someone to take that kind of that pace out of the game when right to do so, and speed it up also in the right time and place. And Maxence Caquaret is one of those kind of shortlist names that I would sit there and go, I mean, it's an interesting one. It really is. And look, because of the circumstances in which Lyon find themselves, you might sit there and go, it probably doesn't not make sense. I'm not sure it will necessarily happen immediately. It might be something that you see later on in the window, if at all. But I would be surprised if he stays at Lyon because of their circumstances. They've only got 31 days to get themselves the right side of some sort of imaginary financial line to impress upon the lawmakers that they're financially solvent and in a position where they shouldn't necessarily have to go to Ligue 2 as a punishment for their crimes. Next up on the list, guys, is a player from PSV Eindhoven called RICARDO PEPI. Now, he's a player that I've become very familiar with in the last kind of month and a half. He's only 21 years old. He's American, right? He is 6'1", plays for PSV Eindhoven. He's a striker, centre forward. This season, he's played 15 games, 10 goals, 2 assists. For America, 33 games, 13 goals. £20 million bids are rumoured, and Tottenham are one of the names that are considered to be a higher likelihood of one of the teams that are put in the expressions of interest. Now, what's interesting about RICARDO PEPI is that all those numbers, 15 games, 10 goals, he's done all of that whilst only starting 29% of the minutes available to him. So in terms of his goals per minute, or how many minutes per goal ratio, it's something incredible, like 59%. And he's not getting enough, he's not getting the kind of recognition really yet in the PSV sort of hierarchy setup to be able to convince them that he should be getting more minutes. But for me, when you look at this guy, his abilities on the ball, he looks very calm and measured. He's tall, strong, good in the air, but he's got that kind of Santiago Jimenez style about him where I feel like he can do things off both feet. He can sort of shift and shimmy his body weight quite interestingly in a way that can kind of overcome maybe the lack of pace. Like, you wouldn't have thought that Dominic Solanke was blessed with incredible pace, right? But he's faster than you thought he was. If I'm wrong about that, but to me, he's faster than I gave him credit for when you see him running. And he also has the ability to kind of get the ball out of his feet in a really crafty way and create space for himself. And it's just, unfortunately, the system that we're using right now is kind of asking a lot of Dominic Solanke to have to come back, and therefore it's difficult for him always to be in the right place at the right time. Think about Kyogo Furuhashi in Celtic. Similar sort of thing. The guy who plays in the line has to play that sort of sacrificial lamb. For me, I like this RICARDO PEPI, 21 years old. And look, obviously the Dutch league, it's a league I love, right? I always find myself talking about players that play. I remember Bakayoko from Eindhoven last year. Absolute dream to watch. We talk about final players all the time. Gerstruida. We talk about Hanko, a player that I think would be brilliant to come into Tottenham. Left-sided centre-back, left-back. Gerstruida can do the same on the other side. Can also sit in that 6 if you want. You've got versatile players there. And listen, the question mark is always, well, how do they transition? And of recent, I think that you're seeing with the likes of what Arne Slot has built in Feyenoord, that these players are capable of doing things, and that he is creative. He's capable of harvesting enough in a short time at Liverpool as well to be able to continue that momentum. And I think that if you're looking at players from Feyenoord, don't forget that they are the beneficiary of playing under a manager like Arne Slot that clearly does have his A, B's and C's about him and knows exactly what he's doing. I think that stuff shouldn't be understated, because these players will never get the chance until they get the chance, but they'll be the beneficiary of what they've experienced going into whatever comes next from what went before. And I think playing under Arne Slot is going to be something that has yielded a lot for him. Now, RICARDO PEPI doesn't play for Feyenoord. He plays for PSV Eindhoven, but he's a player that I think we should keep a very close eye on. £20 million bid. Remember, I've spoken to you a few times now about how I wouldn't be surprised to see some American players coming into our squad, guys, because of the kind of the next transition for the Daniel Levy era. He's always thinking about where does the next money come from, the next logical thing. Sometimes it's to our behoovement, other times it's to our to our detriment, in that he's always thinking about, is there money on it? Is there like juicy sales in shirts and that sort of stuff? And obviously, maybe that's the reason why we got the kind of the sunny replacement in Heung Min and spit on that Yang. I never know how to say his name. Sorry if I offend anyone. Don't mean to. It's a term of endearment. But American obviously makes sense as well. I've spoken about Jonathan David. American born, plays for Canada. Makes a lot of sense though. As a player that's got the numbers for a striker to come in, I think the Premier League is the next right call for him. I think he'd be a fantastic fit to a Tottenham system. I'm happy to say that I've changed my mind on him, because for a long time I wasn't particularly interested. Pepe, a 21-year-old American player, I'm not sure if he's proven enough yet. He hasn't got enough minutes under the belt for us to be really looking at him seriously, but I thought I'd bring it to your attention because we have been linked with him once or twice, and there was rumours out now that he is also, there are bids coming in for him. A Premier League club, £20 million. It kind of makes a little bit of sense to me if we can maybe find a new home for Richalison. On that note, guys, there's more rumours out today that Tottenham are still very interested in going after Everton's JARRAD Branthwaite. I said it all week. £80 million, crazy amount of money. Crazy amount of money. It's not a crazy amount of money for the player. I think the player is fantastic, right? But crazy amount of money for us to think that Tottenham are going to do it. It's not going to happen, in my opinion, unless something wild and weird was to materialise. But I don't see this being the version of wild and weird where he ends up at Tottenham. But the story is that Tottenham would pay cash, something like £50 million, to Everton, and also give them Richarlison back. And look, I'd be on board it. I would be on board it, but I just think it's creative journalism more than anything else. I don't think there's any chance that he would want to go back to Everton. I don't think that Everton would want him back. And I don't necessarily think that that Everton are willing really to do that sort of business. Player plus cash deals are notoriously difficult and complicated. You have too many chefs, too many cooks, not enough. Too many. What is it? Chiefs, not enough Indians in the room. Like, he's got 3 different agents, 3 different players, 3 different sets of parents, 3 different sets of wives, 3 different sets of clubs, 3 different sets of everything. It just becomes incredibly complicated. So I don't think that's going to happen. But if we were looking for another striker, I do think you would need to find a solution for Richarlison. Is he going to go back to Fluminense crazy? Don't know. Haven't heard anything more about that in the last couple of days. What else we got for you guys? Evan Ferguson. Remember him? £100 million guy, right? He hasn't really kicked on, has he? He's been riddled with injuries at Brighton. He has played a few games this season, but he's mainly coming off the bench. And there's rumours that Tottenham might be interested in taking him on loan from Brighton, which, again, I just don't see that happening. Why on God's green earth would Tottenham want to develop a player just to give him back to Brighton, who, you know, whether you think of them as competition or otherwise, if he's not good enough for Brighton, is he good enough for us? Well, look, I think maybe Brighton have got a different set of circumstances, different set of injuries, different set maybe of kind of conveyor belt talent coming through, different set of, you know, just the cocktail of variables is slightly different there. Do I like Evan Ferguson? I did like him, but he has got so many injuries now in his young years, and I just don't think that, for me, there's any real value in taking that risk, even if there was some sort of willingness to do a deal, not a loan, but something more permanent in the summer, for example. I don't think that you can do that until he gets back to his best. And when he does get back to his best, then, of course, you have to shake hands with the fact that you're paying a lot more than what you would have done. You can't have them all. And for me, as much as Evan Ferguson was a brilliant, brilliant player and a breakthrough special, absolute starlet 2 seasons ago, it hasn't really materialised for him just yet. And like a lot of players, unfortunately, injuries are going to be a part of the story for some. And I think he might be one of those victims in that regard. Who else we got for you today, guys? We obviously have a little bit of news regarding just some of the kind of loan updates. Alfie Devine and Vescovic over in Westerlo. Their managers talking about some absolute, some really lovely kind of comments about how good these guys are adapting to life in Belgium and how they would like to see them continue to develop over there. Obviously, we also have Jamie Donnelly, the Leyton Orient's boss, Wellens, I think it is, saying how proud of Jamie that he is for kind of sticking to the plan and getting his head down and working very hard. And because of that, he's been able to manage to find a way to fit him in alongside another player whose name escapes my memory, and be able to work really well together with Leyton Orient. Now, the temptation, of course, is whether or not to bring him out of there. The same with Keeley, the goalkeeper, who I didn't get a chance to see the detail of this particular story, but the headline was that Wellens said that he needs Josh Keeley to remain professional, which I don't know what the details are. Let me know if you found that, if you read that story. Drop it in the comment, let everyone know. Because it sounds like he's saying that Josh Keeley is at risk of not being professional, but that's the inference there. And I don't know what the details were. Maybe I'm making 2 and 2 and getting 22. I'm not sure. But either way, our loan guys are all absolutely smashing it, and some wonderful, wonderful feedback from around the grounds. The last couple of stories for you that I keep hearing about, guys. First and foremost, Andy Diouf, who's another player who plays over in France for Lens. We spoke about him before. 21 years old, Senegalese international. Not Senegalese, French under-23 international. Hasn't quite broken into... he has. Sorry, my bad. He's broken into the French team. He got his debut in the summer of 2024. And look, another midfielder. We've spoken about him a couple of weeks ago, right? Plays in the 6, the 8, the 10. Can do a little bit of everything. I'm a big fan of this guy. But for me, I don't necessarily think he's at the top of my list. And again, for me, Tottenham have got so many midfielders, too many 8s, more 8s than Billericay High Street on a New Year's Eve. Not that I was out, not that I would do that sort of thing anymore. Maybe you were. Let me know. Were there a lot of 8s out? Did you get lucky? Let me know. I live vicariously through you young people, guys. Let me know if you're smashing something pretty. How about the Andy Diouf, 15 games this season, 1 goal, 1 assist, 80% of the starting 11 minutes, 76% of minutes altogether, and 11% of the goal participations. I'm not sure how that would work with 1 goal and 1 assist. Not entirely sure. Is that suggesting that they've scored 20 goals? I think that might be what they're saying. The links are still there. That Tottenham are very much interested in him. I don't think he's going to leave in the summer anyway. Leave until the summer anyway. But by then, surely Tottenham will have moved in a different direction. And lastly, guys, is a player that you may remember me saying, KHUSANOV, ABDOKHADIR KHUSANOV is another player that Tottenham are linked with, another Lens player, believe it or not. Centre-back, who plays for Uzbekistan, comes from Uzbekistan, and he's got his contract until 2027. Can play off the right, can play off the left, right-footed, can play in the 6 as well. A very highly talented emerging player, 20 years old, big, strong, strapping, 185, so he's 6'1", but he's just sort of built like that sort of typical, that strength and resilience and powerhouse that can sometimes look a little bit guided, a little bit hidden in the frames of some of those people that come from that kind of Eastern Bloc area. If you think of UFC, if you're into UFC, you'll know loads of players, loads of fighters that stem from that kind of area of the world that can all carry about themselves in kind of nice, polite frames, but actually have just powerhouses of energy that can do wonderful things in the fighting world. And this guy is a player that I haven't obviously seen too much of, I haven't heard too much about, but I remember when I brought this to your attention a little while ago, I did run him through the Y-Scout tool, and from what I saw, I thought, good, not good enough for me, not good enough yet, and he's a talent for sure, but not something that I want to look at and think that I'll be satisfied with if we go down that path. But you know what? Same things were said about people like Kim Min-jae back in the day. Lots and lots of players have, I don't know whether or not it's like a kind of some sort of disrespect, some inbuilt kind of like, oh, he's come from Uzbekistan. When was the last time a good footballer came from there? Therefore, I'm going to chalk him off the list. I'm not saying it like that at all. I just didn't see enough about him that makes me think that he's anything more exciting than half the other players that we've got maybe in the youth system that I think also should be given a go. And I don't think that Tottenham will be going after more 20-year-olds right now. I think we have enough of them, more 18-year-old talent than the hub, as I always say. And I feel like Tottenham need, as Ange has already said 1,000 times, to sprinkle some experience in, to sprinkle some kind of leadership in, and some kind of meat on the bones to give the guys not just some competition, but some exposure to steady heads and sort of wise decision-making at times, that also at the same time solves two purposes of not necessarily getting in the way of these young kids coming through. Does that come in the form of loans? Does that come in the form of deals that can be made? If they are in the form of long-term deals, permanent deals, then 4 or 5 year contracts means that we don't want to be going after players that we're papering over cracks for. So make sure we get this one right, Daniel Levy. But if you can find a way, Daniel Levy, give me a belated Christmas present of Dani Olmo, I would be on board it. If you can find a way of bringing me someone like him, I'll be on board it. But for me, here's my kind of like Christmas list, late belated Christmas list. I would be very, very happy to hear Tottenham going getting someone like a Gerstruida, someone like a Hanko, David Hanko, and somebody like a Dani Olmo. You've got your versatility in that. 3 players, maybe you go and get a midfielder, or you go and get the 4th goalkeeper, and then Tottenham can call it a day and be very, very happy. Four transfers in January, never been done, has it? Never really going to be happening with Tottenham either. But let me know your thoughts, guys. Lots of interesting names there. Jack Grealish, not for me. What the rest? I'm not going to repeat them all again because it's been half an hour. I apologise. Hope you enjoy yourself. Happy New Year. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, bye-bye.